So let's finally finish up the Friday reviews that I've been doing with the remake, the last one that we have gotten so far. And I hear that we've got a legal issue between the writers and Sean S. Cunningham, apparently, so we haven't had a Friday the 13th movie since this reboot, but I think they've been trying to make more. And I hope that we don't end it on this film because honestly, out of all the Friday films, this is one of my least favorite. And there are people who are fans of this, and I'm totally fine with that. You can be a fan of this. I'm not gonna change you because you like this, and that's just my personal taste. I really don't like this remake. I think this is one of the most it's one of the weirdest remakes because it's not technically a remake of the first film. It's not about Mrs. Voorhees going around and being the murderer. It shows it in the first 5 minutes of the movie about a girl who survived, who's like Alice, who survived that night with the mother, kills the mother after she killed everybody else for Jason. Then Jason sees it happen, so Jason grows up and becomes the killer in this movie. And it doesn't follow the same path as the first one. And this is, again, another reason why this is such a weird remake is because it's not the first movie. It's not trying to be. And it's really a weird mishmash of the first four movies in terms of showing the stuff in part one, in terms of the bag on his head, and in terms of the hockey mask, and in terms of these characters for the fourth one. Just how all of these four movies connect in a weird haphazard way to make this its own thing. But to me, it bothered me so much just seeing how this is just the first four films all into one weird bundle. Like, it is a really weird experiment. Like, this is one of the weirdest remakes, and it's hard to even call it a remake because even the writers were saying, what if this is just another sequel? You could say it's in continuity. But then that would bring up so many questions because there's different actors who plays these characters, like Mrs. Voorhees is another different actor, and another girl who doesn't look like Alice from the 80s, so it's like it's not going to look and feel like it's connected to the other films. And I don't think that I thought that was a weird excuse to use that to say, "Oh, it doesn't have to be a reboot." Even though it's called Friday the 13th, and it's not the first film, so they say it could be in continuity with it, but it's a mishmash of the first four films and tries to be so much like them that it's really distracting and makes it way less interesting than I thought it would be. Because I love the first four films, I think they're all great. The first four films, at least, are great, and I like how they all are entertaining in their own right. And this one, it's just so much being those four that it doesn't have that much of a story that is different. And like these movies, you don't expect a story, or a good story. But to me, I felt like the other films were more entertaining in their right, just being fun, entertaining. Because like I said, this one with the mother being killed at the beginning, and with the baghead, and with the hockey mask, and with the brother looking for the sister that's killed. It's all these different points from the first four films. But it just felt like, since it was such a mishmash, it didn't feel like it was clever or unique. It just felt like it was another one of these movies, and it made it worse, honestly, for me. I thought it didn't flow at all well. And I'll give the movie this. It looks pretty. It's a pretty looking movie. And it has some good gory scenes in it, but I feel like they just it's up the gore, definitely, and it's trying to be really, really gory and disgusting like the other ones. But it doesn't feel like, to me, it just didn't feel like it had any gravity to it. It was just this haphazard story with all the same stuff. And like a lot of people who are not fans of this franchise will argue that every movie is bad or every movie is the same movie. And I can agree on some points that every movie is almost the same for the most part. There's differences in some of them, but for the most part they could all be pretty much the same. But this one, and part 8 especially, those two are the ones that really, really bug me because I feel like the characters are so bland and so boring and just so uninteresting that even though you can argue any of the characters in the movies are bad, but I thought that a lot of the other characters in the older movies had such charisma And these actors, I guess, have that too, but I felt like they were just so much so the same thing because of this being a copy of the first four movies. It felt like it was exactly the same with all these characters and how they were. You got the douchebag character, you got the guy looking for his dead sister, or sister is gone. She's not really dead in this movie, but like in the final chapter. But in this one, he's looking for his missing sister, and you got the nerdy character. You got the the good character, the good girl who doesn't do anything bad. Like you've got all these tropes that are in all these movies, but I felt like they just were better executed in the other ones. And you can argue that execution isn't good in these movies at all, but I thought that they were more entertaining in the older movies. And like I mean, I guess I felt a little for like the characters, but like they just didn't feel as authentic, and they felt like they were, like people from like a magazine. Like they look like they're the hot young actors, and in the older movies, it felt like they were just normal, everyday kids, and I like that about it. In this one, they felt like they're really just actors who are models off of magazines, like girls and guys. They just look like they're people that are like people that aren't normal, and I liked how authentic it felt in the older movies. I felt like it felt way more authentic than this. And the story, like I said, is just a mishmash of the first four, so it's not anything different. It's about this guy Clay who is looking for his missing sister Whitney, who in the first 20 minutes of the movie all her friends are killed and she is taken hostage by Jason, and Jason locks her underground because he reminds her of his mother. And Clay is looking for her and meets all these new people that are coming down to Camp Crystal Lake because of a guy who owns Trent, who owns this whose family owns this location by Crystal Lake, and Jason, of course, comes by and starts killing him again. So that's pretty much the plot, and it's hard to talk about because there's nothing really new. And like I said, you can argue that the other movies are bad and not original either, but this one I just felt like was so just carbon copy, carbon copy. Even more irritating just because it just used the first four as a template and mixed them and mishmashed them together. At least some of the movies that are really bad in this franchise, like Jason X or Jason Takes Manhattan or The New Blood, even though I love The New Blood, but Jason X and Jason 8 or Jason Takes Manhattan are bad. But I feel like those ones at least have such an interesting like little difference to the films. Like Jason X is in space, even though I don't like that movie a lot. And Jason Takes Manhattan is in New York in the last half of the movie, or the last 30 minutes of the movie. And The New Blood is about a telekinetic girl fighting Jason. Like, those always have something different, and this one just using the first four made it so bland and so unmemorable. And that's what I feel like the biggest issue is. It's just so unmemorable. It has nothing that entertained me really. It's not like the worst thing ever, but it's not one that I enjoy watching. Rewatching it again, it was a chore to get through. It was just so uninteresting. And like I said, there are people who love this movie, and that's perfectly fine. I'm more power to you. It's just for me, this to me is one of the weakest in the franchises, and it's definitely a pretty weak movie to end on. And I wish we'd have gotten something like a Freddy vs. Jason 2. Because even if that was bad, I feel like that would have been more entertaining and original than this one. Because this one was just another Friday film. And I really don't like this one at all. And out of all the movies, it's between this and Part 8, which is like one of my least favorites. Jason X is my least favorite out of all of them, but this one or Part 8 come after Jason X in terms of the worst. And I don't know which one to choose because they both have bland characters and an uninteresting story. But really, it's just the biggest issue with the movie is that it's dull and bland, and it's been done so many times before. And watching it again, like I said, it was really hard to get through.